Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1561A, and today's date is May 6th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Day of Reckoning is Approaching. Signs Are Everywhere. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview on X22 Report Spotlight. It is with Greg Manarino. So if you go over to YouTube and you type in X22 Report Spotlight, it will bring you right to the interview. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com or NewsCentral.com websites. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the interview there. Or you can go to Steemit, that is steemit.com/@X22Report, and you can watch the interview on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been talking about the central banks and how they are continually pushing and making it seem like cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, that nobody should be looking at them whatsoever. They're used by criminals, terrorists. Gold and silver, they're barbarous relics. They're absolutely meaningless. The only thing that you should be concerned with is their fiat system, where they have paper and ink, and you should trade in that, and that's what you should use. Everything else is used by other criminals, or it's barbarous, and you shouldn't use it anymore. So we see right now why they are doing this, and we already see from the Hong Kong report that the crypto market actually is not being used by terrorists. It's not being used by criminals to launder money. It's kind of ridiculous anyhow, because everything is kept in the ledger and you can trace everything. So why in the world would a criminal want to use something that you can trace? It makes no sense. But again, most of the people out there just hear this and they believe what these central bankers are saying. But what's very interesting is that Bitcoin is about to go physical. And this is pretty darn different than what everyone has been thinking of. And what I mean by this startup company, Tangem, this is a startup company in Switzerland and Singapore, and has launched a pilot sale of physical notes of Bitcoin. And this is called the smart banknotes. And what it is, it's a card that has a chip, which was developed by Samsung Semiconductors. It allows consumers to physically carry Bitcoin stored in denominations of 0.01 or about $96. And again, this is going to fluctuate. The first pilot batch, consisting of 10,000 notes, will be shipped from Singapore to potential partners and distributors around the world. Now, the idea behind creating physical notes of Bitcoin was in part to increase the ease of spending crypto, improving the simplicity and security of acquiring, owning, and circulating cryptocurrency. So basically, it's almost like an offline wallet, which you're carrying around with you. So Singapore, they developed a reputation as a hub for cryptocurrencies and blockchain development in Asia. Recently, the Singapore FinTech Association and the FinTech Association of Japan signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on fintech development. Additionally, China and Singapore completed a shipment of gasoline entirely using blockchain technology in early April. So we see right now that cryptocurrency is now making the next move. And this is what the central bankers are kind of afraid of, that the mainstream everyday person will start to catch on and start to realize, wait a minute, I can use cryptocurrencies, I can use the blockchain, I can carry this around. See, now it's going to start to make sense to everyone. And I can just go and just use this instead of using the bank currency, instead of using the central bank fiat system. I don't have to keep everything in the banking system. So you can see right now that this is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of it going mainstream. Now, is this going to be the be all and end all? Maybe, maybe not. But that doesn't matter. The idea is out there that people can use this. And this is what the central banks are trying to basically stop. And if you want to know more about cryptocurrencies, if you're just completely new, it's almost like the internet. When it first came out, people had no idea what the internet was. People said, what are you going to use this for? It's nothing. You can dial up. You can go to a couple websites. Yeah, it's great, but you can't really use it for anything. But today we use it for everything. All transactions, streaming video, streaming music, purchasing everything online through the internet. Actually, it took the place of hard copy catalogs and just actually put them on the internet, and you can do and pay for everything right on the internet instead of waiting for the book to come, looking through the Sears catalog, placing your order by phone. Everything just moved to the internet. And now people see, wow, I have all these apps on my phone which are connected to what? The internet. And now people understand what the internet is. The same thing with cryptocurrencies. People don't understand, what do you use this for? What is Bitcoin? What is Litecoin? What is Dash? I just hold it? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now people are going to start to understand. And if you want to know more, go to X22reportschool.com. There is a training class, a school that you can learn about cryptocurrency. And if you already know about cryptocurrencies and you just want to learn how to trade it and how to basically take what you have and duplicate and make more of what you have, well, that would be watching Crypto Z and Crypto Cowboy in the trading room. It's an entertainment room where you can watch them trade, and people have been having incredible success in the trading room. They show you where to trade it, what systems to use to trade, and how to make profits from it. So if you want to see any of that, just go to x22reportschool.com and you can see any of that. Now remember, the links are on the x22report.com website. It's also at the bottom of the video in the financial video on YouTube, so you can just click on that link. So you don't have to write into me to ask me, where the school is and stuff like that. All the links are out there. It's right on the site, and it's also on the YouTube video. We also see Russia. They plan to run the interbank payment system on blockchain. Remember, they created this financial communication transfer system because they were afraid the Western powers, the establishment, was going to shut off the SWIFT system. And it looks like what they're going to do right now is they're going to place this on the blockchain by 2019. Now, we know that Russia developed this alternative SWIFT 4 years ago, and people didn't think that this was actually going to evolve and go into mainstream production, but it has. And now they're looking to place this on the blockchain. And they want this because they want security, and guess what else they want? Transparency. Remember, once you're on the blockchain, it's a ledger-driven system. You can see where everything is going. And they said using blockchain technology in SPFS, which is the Financial Communication Transfer System, would safeguard this system from hackers. In the past, Russia banks have experienced hacking-related issues with using the SWIFT system. And they're saying if they put it on the blockchain, guess what? It's less of a chance of getting hacked. Now, once the exchanges become decentralized, which is happening right now, and the atomic swapping, where you can trade other bitcoins, other cryptocurrencies for any other cryptocurrency, guess what? It's going to make it very, very difficult for hackers. And this is coming down the line. This is going to be, the blockchain 2.0 or 3.0, whatever it's going to be. But we could see that it's making huge developments, and this is going to accelerate over time. And we see this is why the private Western central bank system, this is what they're so afraid of. Because if the people start to realize what this really is, just like the alternative media and everything else with YouTube and social media, the alternative media was born out of the internet because it allowed people to communicate and to express what was going on instead of looking at the corporate media. So people found other outlets, and people started to realize, well, wait a minute, there's other information than what the corporate media is telling us. And the establishment, well, they didn't like this. This is why they've been trying to shut it down right now. See how this works? This is what they were so afraid of. Well, they didn't realize really what it was. They came into the game very late, and then they started to realize what it was, and they took over the system, where the intelligence agencies went ahead and they, basically got their hands into Facebook, into YouTube, into Google, and things like that. Now they're trying to cut this off in the very beginning with cryptocurrency. So this is where we are right now. Now, it looks like the day of reckoning is coming for the entire economic system. And a while back, I did an interview with Bill Holter on the X22 Report Spotlight, where we talked about how the credit system is going to basically break down and freeze. And it looks like corporate borrowers, well, they might be approaching that day of reckoning, and it's coming very, very quickly. Looks like the credit reckoning may be very near. Balance sheets have become more and more bloated from the excess borrowing, which was created by the Federal Reserve easy money policies. and shrinking bond yield premiums don't make sense. At some point, they argue that there'll have to be a reckoning. Now, could this be nearing that point? I think so, because one place you can see them in the latest monthly survey put out by the National Association of Credit Management. This organization, by the way, surveys about 1,000 credit managers in the manufacturing and service industries across the U.S. Like most surveys of its kind, the main index number was down a bit from its recent highs, but some Wall Street strategists are focusing on more alarming data points showing a collapse in a category called dollar collections. The index covering that part of the survey, which measures the ability of creditors to collect the money they are owed from other customers, tumbled to 46.7% in April from 59.6% in March, putting it at its lowest level since 2009, the height of the financial crisis. Now, the folks at the NACM aren't quite sure what to make of this big plunge, but what they do know is that credit conditions are getting weaker, and the strengthening economy has forced more companies to boost borrowings to keep pace with their competitors. Now, they may be struggling to keep on top of that debt because rising interest rates, they're adding a lot of pressure on corporations with large refinancing needs, and it looks like things are starting to really break down now. And if the interest rates continually move up, guess what happens? Things break down further. We saw this prior to 2008. We saw the credit markets completely freeze up in 2007 going into 2008, especially 2009. The signs were all around us, and we're seeing the same thing happen once again. So it looks like the day of reckoning, it's coming very, very quickly. And this is why the Trump and the Patriots and the central banks, they are battling it out. Who is going to control the narrative when this entire system comes down? This is what this fight is all about, because we're in a central banking system. It can't last forever. We know this from history, where it only lasts about 40, 45 years. They kept it going for a very long time because they were allowed to create funny money, propping up the banks. The public didn't see this. They were able to push bubbles higher and higher. But you know what happens every time this happens. Everything comes crashing down. We've seen it in the past. This is nothing new, and we're seeing it once again. And everyone's going to look back and go, oh my God, the signs were all over the place. Look, real estate was a bubble. This is what they always do. Real estate was a bubble. Look at the automobile industry. You know what happened there? They let all the subprime people in. You know what happened in the real estate at the end stage? They let all the subprime people in. They didn't do any income checks. This can't be allowed to happen once again. This is what they always do. They always go back in time and tell you what happened. Well, right now, we're all discussing it now, what is happening, because we know eventually the powers that be are going to say, yeah, the whole thing is just breaking down. And here we are once again at the end. Now, Venezuela, I mean, we need to look at Venezuela because this is showing us what could happen. Maybe not to the extreme, but something very close. Because right now, when you look at Venezuela, they are bartering. A haircut right now costs 5 bananas and 2 eggs. They are bartering. Remember, we talked about this a while ago where we said eventually you're going to need cash on hand. That's why to keep cash in your home, someplace close, someplace safe, where you can get to it. Because in the beginning stages, everyone knows about cash, and they'll use cash. And when inflation hits, the value of that cash is going to decrease very, very rapidly. So you want to get rid of it very quickly and get whatever you possibly can. Then eventually what's going to happen is that no one will accept cash because it will be absolutely worthless. We'll then move into bartering. And people will say, okay, you know what? I'll give you 5 bananas, 2 eggs for a haircut. And this is what people will do. Like, oh, you want food? I'll take toilet paper. And people will start to barter. Then eventually what will happen is a new system will come online. Maybe it'll be a cryptocurrency system. And those people who have cryptocurrencies, they will be reevaluated much, much higher. And people will then use those or trade them into another cryptocurrency, which everyone agrees upon to use. Or everyone will be able to use whatever they want, and they'll use atomic swaps to actually make the transactions. And people who have gold and silver, that will ensure their wealth, because as the dollar devalues and crashes, guess what happens to gold and silver? Yes, throughout history, the same thing happens. It goes up. So you have that insurance policy. You can then trade it in for what? Cryptocurrency to use as trade. And you are then set. And of course, you need your supplies like water, food, and things like that so you can barter. So again, this might not happen the way it's happening in Venezuela, but again, we're going to get pretty darn close to what is happening there. And people are going to be shocked, surprised. They're not going to know what is happening because, again, the central banks, the manipulation of all these stats that they've been throwing out there, the corporate media, it's all going to be turning out to be one gigantic illusionary lie that they've been keeping us in all this time. And then people are going to start to realize, whoa, what just happened? And this brings us back to the narrative part where whoever controls the narrative will be able to tell the story of what really happened. And I always refer back to 1971 when we're coming off the gold standard and we're going on to the petrodollar, where the central banks back then had the narrative. They told us there was a gas shortage, that speculators are dabbling in gold. Actually, the countries wanted their gold back because they saw what the United States was doing. They were creating a lot more currency than there was gold. And other countries started to realize this. And of course, what did the United States, the central bankers, have to do? They had to stop those individuals, those countries, from coming in and taking their gold. And this is why they had to make up the story. So they created these narratives to convince you of why this is happening. Today, the central bank would like to have that narrative once again so they can explain why we need to go on to a new system. They'll make it out that these countries or these groups have been dabbling in something and destroying the dollar, and this is why we need to move to maybe the SDRs that they have planned for us or things like that. Or we have Trump and the Patriots saying it was the central bank's fault. They're the ones who created this. We need to audit them. We need to find out what they've been doing over a period of time because we don't believe the central bank should exist at this point because we need a full investigation. Because if we go back to 2008 and going back in time, we're starting to see patterns with the central bank. And let's just take a look because I think the people of the country, people around the world, they have the right to see what the central banks are doing because, again, they are working for the people, right? Or are they working for themselves? But we need to find out because we know the central banks, they're private and they're really working for themselves, but they're supposed to be working for the people. But if they are working for the people like they say they are, then we have the right to see what they are doing because they're running a people's economy, so they say, and we should have the right to audit them to see where all of our funds are going. But again, they're going to say these are our funds. We're letting you use it. It's a Federal Reserve note, which is a debt instrument. And if they do go down this path, there is no reason to have this establishment whatsoever because they just have proven to everyone that, first of all, you're not allowed to look. Second of all, it's their currency. Third of all, you're not working for the people. So at that point, forget the audit. Let's just get rid of them. Repay what we owe the Federal Reserve for starting up, which is not that much money in today's standards. Pay it off and be done with them. And I think this is the approach that we need to take as we move forward. But we are going to be going through this transition. You're going to need to be prepared and ready because it is going to hit. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.